Okay. Let's see if I'm actually live for real. Let's see. Well, Instagram says I'm live. I have a new. Yeah. It says I am. So there we go. I have a new snazzy. For those of you on Instagram, on YouTube, I have a new snazzy title card now that says Joe Auger Night O Clock, and so I'm starting it off with that. And so, to all the millions and millions of people out there watching as I go through the motions, because I want to, and so I'm here. I'm gonna do this thing, and hang on, just making sure I don't have that on. Oh, for crying out loud! Now it's saying the stream's bitrate. It's like it goes. You fucking YouTube, man. It's like I swear their stream's current bitrate is lower than the recommended. Blah 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 blah. Okay, but yet it'll say the stream health. Stream health is good. But it was excellent earlier. Lower than the recommended. That uses stream bit rate of 68 kp. Blah blah blah. Well, I'll tell you what. I am going to, because it looks fine on my monitor, and from what I can see and hear is that it's also fine in the thing. So, and people are on, and they're starting to populate in, and I'm hoping that, because I did pop this out a little bit on YouTube, on Facebook and Instagram, that I was going to be doing this. So I was going to try and start this last week, but ran into all kind of problems. OBS, which is the digital widget I use on my computer. Of course, I should never do this, and I'm in IT, and I should know better. But there was an update to the software, so it's like, okay, I'll do the update. Normally, it's not a problem. This time, it ended up being a problem. They've moved some things around, they've added some things, they've changed a few things. So a couple of little, not to throw OBS under the bus or anything, because normally OBS is a really good, free, pretty user-friendly widget for digital streaming and all that kind of stuff. Which is why I use it, and I use it here. I use it at work. So all I would say for those of you who are using OBS, well, continue to do so. However, I've got a list of a few things that I wish they would just sort of like, okay, I know what you're trying to do, and you're trying to consolidate and make things easier or whatever, but don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Keep it simple. That's why we like it. You know what I mean? It's not meant to be TriCaster level, or you know what I mean? Like it's not meant to be this really high end widget for this kind of thing. It's for those of us who are, as much as I know how to use that stuff, it's like I don't want to when I'm doing this on my own. I don't have a crew of people in a side studio here that are doing the technical stuff. So OBS, love you, but just be careful. Keep it simple. Stop messing around with too much stuff. Don't fix stuff that ain't broken, kind of thing. I know you all IT/AV types are like to tinker around for the sake of it. It's just like, yeah, sometimes that's not a good idea. So anyway, but actually this works out just as well, better, because the idea that I want to do, this will be a part one for those of you who have tuned in but don't understand what I'm doing. So normally when I do the 9 o'clock, I'll do an hour of chat or something and farting around, and then I'll play music and sing and stuff. However, I'm going to do things a little bit differently. I might do some chat, but however, in lieu of playing and singing, for the moment, at least for now, what I want to do is, it's kind of a twofold thing. So I'll be recording this, and obviously YouTube will be capturing it and all that. But it's for those that, if they can't make the live show, and then they can go back and redo it if they want. It's doing a live mix, a live listened / commentary to the new Beatles 62, 66 remix albums, and you can kind of see what I'm looking at here. So obviously I bought both of these. I bought both of these in high def from the HD Tracks website, where I've been buying pretty much all of the Beatles, remixes and things since they started doing these with Sgt. Pepper. Obviously, with the remix, it's a kind of a different story. We were expecting a Rubber Soul box set. I think that's still going to come, but I don't. It's clearly not coming this year. I think they were trying to do. It looks like they were kind of. I don't want to say hedging their bets, but they had a slightly different idea. It was 50th anniversary of these greatest hits records, and they wanted to do something special. So I get it. However, we would really like a Rubber Soul box set. The the song list that they, along with what was originally on the records, and then what they added to it, which is a number of things. So right now, that first album, the Red Album, is up to 38 tracks from a lot less than that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to comment again 4 parts. So it'll be each album will be 2 parts. Mainly because it would be these would be long evenings if I were going to do it that way. So for tonight, I'll start from the top, and then I'm going to basically go through up to where the few help tracks leave off. So I'm going to bring it. I'll do it up until track 21, which is "You've Got to Hide Your Love Away," and then next week I'll start with "We Can Work It Out" and go through to the rest of it, which is where all the real sort of fun begins. However, the first set of things is obviously a lot of their early stuff that is we've all learned to listen to them in their sort of slightly, I don't want to say lo-fi, but lo-fi. Sorry, I have tea. It's 8:00. I'm an old person, so I start to nod like a heroin addict. So I have tea with caffeine to get me through. May or may not be a good idea, but fuck it. I can sleep late tomorrow. Anyway, so so we've learned to love the early bits and pieces, all the way down to Love Me Do, from Love Me Do and the Please Please Me album and all that. Obviously, what they've done is they're doing remixes of all the tracks from these greatest hits, but also adding a few things. And I think a certain amount of this was sort of like a test to see, A, would it sell? B, would it make sense to continue and do all of the albums this way? Which I hope to God they do at this point, because in general, as a bit of a spoiler, yeah, I think it's totally worth it. Now, and I'll go through song by song as we're doing them, and I may pause between songs. So again, if you have the album, obviously you're not going to hear the songs up on Instagram or YouTube. So you're going to have to, if you haven't already bought the CDs, the mix or the remix albums, or have the tracks or whatever it might be, you need to listen to them in your headphones, as I'm going to listen to them in my headphones, and I will tell you when to turn, when to hit play. So that way what I'm commenting on makes sense. I may pause here or there, and I'll let you know when I'm doing that, but that's really the only way to do this. I see folks up on YouTube, and they fight the algorithm to death, and it's like, algorithm is not the algorithm is not wouldn't even allow like 7 seconds of each of these songs. I can't comment on that. I mean, I could do a film of it or a clip, just kind of somewhat what I did with the Sgt. Pepper album, and then I'm going to do with some of the other ones where I do kind of a prepared filmed thing and then pop it up there. But for me, it's like when I'm listening to these things, as I'm listening to them, I hear new things, and so these would be probably like the 3rd or 4th listen to these albums. So since I got them a few weeks back, and I'm just gonna wave at some folks here up on Instagram, and so I anyway, so I just thought, and I've seen some folks do this with movies up on YouTube as well. So what they'll do is they'll put like they'll say, okay, turn the movie on now, and then you can, like, if like with a subscription thing, you can watch them comment on the movie, as it goes. I love a good commentary. I have many DVD box sets of movies and things and I really enjoy the commentaries of like the actors or the directors and the filmmakers and all that kind of stuff. I think it's, music's a little different, for sure, but the way that I listen to music, or especially these remixes as an audio engineer in my head, on the one hand, it's like I have to sometimes, okay, do I want to just enjoy this, or am I thinking about it technically? Now, obviously, I've listened to this music since I was 10 years old, so I know the music inside out, upside down, backwards, forwards, diagonally, however you want to, spatially, multi-universally. I've listened to them that much, as I would suspect most Beatles fans. However, what I find amazing about these iterations, this new modern refreshers of this music, is that it is, of course, really pulling the blanket off of a lot of aspects of those old mixes and the recordings that we just got used to, which, again, and we always have those things to fall back on if we felt we didn't like the remixes and stuff like that. And I go through that in the Sgt. Pepper album critique thing that I did, that is up on YouTube for those of you who are not aware. Go to my channel and you'll find a Sgt. Pepper thing. I basically go through every sort of iteration of Sgt. Pepper. So basically from the remix that happened in 2017, and then I also listened to the original stereo mix, but also the original mono mix, to kind of just get a sense of each song and how the differences in each song and all that kind of stuff. And there are differences that I find between all three that are all three of those iterations of that album have their wins and high points and things, right? In general, the new remix, as far as I'm concerned, is definitive. I think, again, I'm not going to talk about Sgt. Pepper fully. Some of that will actually come back when I do delve into the Blue Album remixes, because some of those remixes are obviously on these albums. So, there'll be a bit of a reiteration of those. So, anyway, yeah, so technical feats, is it AI? Is it machine learning? And I guess it's learning the difference between the two. That's a huge difference, and I think people don't understand it. And unfortunately, from what I see online, is that there's a gleeful and blissful ignorance of not wanting to know the difference for some reason. Some reasons for it's just so that people can kvetch and bitch and moan about, oh, it's AI and they're recreating blah blah blah. Obviously, this is in regards to the Now and Then single, of course. Just thinking, oh, it's just another money grab and blah blah blah. Or they're creating new Beatles music with AI. Well, now, okay. So first things first, AI is telling a computer you're giving it parameters to do this, 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 and this. And then it will come up with its own idea and algorithm to create and or encompass that list of bullet points. So yes, you are seeing that shit up online. You are now seeing ersatz Beatlesque tunes as composed by a computer, by AI. Using Beatle, I don't want to say Beatle cliches, but Beatle coloring, shall we say. Some of them are sort of fascinating in and of themselves, but do I want to listen to them over and over again? No, not really. The thing that I'm finding more interesting is that people are using AI in a more restorative way, like using it for restoration of old recordings, i.e. Now and Then. Now, the difference between AI and machine learning. So, machine learning, as proposed and or as put forth by Peter Jackson's MAL software, and I love the fact that it's called MAL because to me that's a lovely nod, however accidental or whatever, to Mal Evans, right? Um, they were able to take that cassette of John Lennon's. They were able to literally demix it from the mono cassette of him singing along with a piano with a TV on in the background and a horrible electrical buzz on the whole thing. They basically stripped each piece from each piece, and suddenly you have this wonderfully, beautifully clear John Lennon vocal that just didn't exist before. But it's not AI; it's machine learning. It's asking the computer to basically listen to the voice and pull it out of this mix and do what you need to do EQ wise. And then they did the same thing with the piano. They didn't use the piano for the new mix, obviously, but that's what they did. That's what I find interesting and exciting. And that's what they did here with these new Beatles remixes by going into, especially like these older, these older pieces, Love Me Do, through into She Loves You, etc. These all were done either on two-track machines or mono. Some only exist as mono sources. There was, even though when they got into the 4-track recording, they were going and doing bouncing of tracks so that they could open up tracks. So they would do bass, drums, guitar on one track, and then they would maybe add another guitar onto track 2, and then voices on 3. They might have bounced that to then 4, and then added some more stuff onto. You know what I mean? So there's still pieces bunched together on one mono track. That's what the software was used for, was to demix those specific elements to create separate stems, which Giles Martin could then remix in a more richer way, in a more just a deeper way, and EQ as well. So I've been jibber jabbering for almost 19 minutes about it. And it comes down to how I'm gonna do this. So what I'm gonna do for the millions and millions of people out there is you're just gonna hear me talking. You're not gonna hear the music. You might hear a little whisper of it in the background. I would doubt that YouTube would be able to hear it. I think it would be really hilarious if they did and shut me down. I'd have to figure out a different way of doing it. But it's not gonna be that loud in my headphones. But I'll let you know when each piece is done. You'll also see it here in my iTunes player here. What's playing, when it is, where I'm pausing, when I'm stopping, and what song I'm on, and all that kind of stuff. So you can click the on button. I might pause in between songs just to reflect on whatever it is I've heard. So that's what we're gonna do. That's what I'm gonna do tonight. Then next week, again, oh boy, I tell you what, one thing I've learned about doing these kinds of things, and I'm sure some folks have maybe realized it more than I have, but I only just realized that I say the word again a lot, and boy, does it piss me off, and it's starting to really annoy the fuck out of me. So if I say the word again, you may see me bristle because I'm very, very aware of it these days. It pops out. It's like a tick. It's like it's like a weird verbal tick that I can't seem to get out of my. It's weird. It's just very, very weird. Anyway, so I'm going. Oh, I almost said it again. God damn it! I'm gonna go through up until into the Help remixes, which was they only did four songs from that album basically, and then next week, same time, same place. On a Saturday, I will do, starting at 8 o'clock, we'll start with We Can Work It Out and go through the rest of this record through into Tomorrow Never Knows. Then we will go on the third day. Let me see. Let me bring it up real quick. Yeah, on the third day, which will be pretty much... Well, it'll be it's not Christmas Eve. It'll be the 23rd, day before Christmas Eve. We will start with on for part 3. Go into start with Strawberry Fields Forever. Go through most of the sort of psychedelic stuff through into the Hey Jude single. And then part 4, the last part, will be the White Album into Get Back, and then Abbey Road, and then obviously to the end there. I'm just realizing one thing that I will do probably for next or for part 3 is the way that they put the remix of Hey Bulldog in between the White Album and the Get Back thing, because it was when it was released on Yellow Submarine, but that was recorded at the same time as Lady Madonna and some of that other stuff there. Same with Across the Universe. To be honest, I might even do the same thing with that instead of though it's Let It Be. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm still figuring that part out, but that's part 3 and part 4. So don't worry about that for now. So that's what we're gonna do. So again, whether you're here live to do it with me, or if you are watching this after the fact on the channel, you can, I'm going to start playing the thing. I'm going to make sure that the music is not coming through, because obviously, again, they're going to, see, it's like it's fucking drinking game, isn't it? Only these days I drink tea. So, so I think on that note, it's about 8:23. And we'll start the process, and we'll go from there. And then, obviously feel free to comment either up here on the Instagrams or on the YouTubes, because I am live. It does say I'm live. I'm going to just quickly check one more time to make sure. Yep. I'm there. The audio's good, even though the YouTube widget says I'm not. I don't know. I have to go. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah. It's one of the things that OBS is just throwing a curveball at me here, and it's just kind of it's quite kind of ticking my OCD. It's just like I see that there's a warning there. It's just like, but it's fine. Go away, Mr. Warning Pants. Okay. So let's start. It's 8:24 on Saturday, December 9th. Well, all right. I'll address it just because obviously everybody else is addressing it, but I was really kind of purposely not addressing it. Obviously, it's the day after the anniversary of the death of John Lennon. We all know that at this point. Some obviously the 40-year anniversary. We're coming up on 45 in 2 years. That'll be crazy, but you bring it up. Obviously, it's a thing. Obviously, it's a very Beatley holiday. Unfortunately, that particular episode happened around this time, so you get reminded of it. It's a very Beatle-centric holiday this year, with Now and Then, these greatest hits remixes. It's a very Beatle year. So, and on that note, all we can do is just pay tribute, and that's it. That's all we can do. Better left unsaid the rest of it at this point. Just kind of celebrate in the best way that you know how. The life of John Lennon, the life and work of John Lennon, and the Beatles, of course. And this is my way of doing that as best as I can, by basically talking over their music. I don't know. You tell me. It's like you let me know whether it's something you give a shit about, or tell me in the comments later if it's something that's like, oh, that really sucked, dude, or whatever. I may take it to heart. I might not. I don't know. There are times I believe me, get tired of hearing my voice, my own voice. But there are times, well, it's also something that I'd like to, if people were interested, but maybe that's the point, is that because I don't get a lot of listeners, maybe people are as annoyed by my voice as I am. So who knows? I'm being very self-deprecating right now, but whatever. Okay, so on all of those notes, let's try it. So I'm a hit play. You can see right there. I'm gonna hit the start of this, and I'm gonna make sure that it's all good. Actually, I'm gonna make sure I'm also not horribly blown out in my ears there, so that I can hear myself talk just enough. Anyway, so I'm going to start with the new remix of Love Me Do, which most of us know in mono, and this is also, just so you're aware, this is the original Ringo Starr on drums version, not the Alan White album version, which is an interesting choice because that's not originally what was on this greatest hits album. It was the Alan White drummed version. But I'm kind of glad that they did a little bit of revisionist history on that, because that means all of them are on there. It's not just Ringo banging a tambourine. And then that happens because I may sneeze through a lot of this because I'm still dealing with allergies. This has not been so much of a winter as it has been an extended fall, and the leaves are still out and moldy, and so I may sneeze a lot through this, and I apologize. Anyway, I'm gonna hit play. Here we go. Love Me Do. And the first thing you hear is that everything's in stereo. I can hear the guitars on their own. The bass sounds beautiful. And you can hear Paul McCartney's very wobbly, nervous voice. One of the things that these remixes have really pulled out is Ringo's drums. Beautifully, Ringo's drums. Even the hand claps have their own track now. I'll do a hit every once in a while. That way you can sync yourself up. All right, I'm going to hit pause. So, Love Me Do. First impressions is that it's spread out. Not horribly spread out, not spread out like in 60s version stereo where there's the bass is way the hell over here and guitar's way over the hell over here, and it's nicely spread. But you can really hear Paul's bass in really nice round tone. You really hear the bass. But again, I'm going to say again, over and over again, whenever I say again, take a drink. Ringo's drums have been just beautifully preserved on these tapes, and they were beautifully recorded at the time, enough to withstand this process to the point where, like, that on that one you can really hear the kick drum. And now that was also his premiere kit. That was before he was using the Ludwigs. So, and you can hear that. It's really interesting to me that, like, oh yeah, his drum kit on this sounds completely different, because it was that first premiere kit he had. It's not, again, it's again, I'm going to say it a lot. I'm sorry. I apologize ahead of time for saying the word again. This song was obviously a much simpler affair. There wasn't a lot for him to do other than just try to keep things pretty tight, pretty straight, whatever. And that's what it is. So it's Love Me Do. It's not a Beatles masterpiece by any stretch, but it is the first Beatles song recorded as the four of them. So hey, that means a lot. And see what I did there? That means a lot. Going forward, so all right, that's the first single. All right, so I'm going to go on to the next piece, which is Please Please Me, which would be their second single, obviously. And so I'm going to hit play. You can see me hitting play. Here we go. This sounds so good in, like, this real stereo instead of that sort of processed fake stereo that they had, that we've listened to all these years. The lead up into that chorus, that Ringo using those flams, is just beautiful. Okay, the little tom tom thing, I love how that they separated it, each tom tom, and stereoized it. Awesome. I'm glad they kept in all the little mistakes. All right, I'll hit pause again. So you can really start to hear things start to blossom, right? Obviously, this song, George Martin said it. That's your first number one, which is interesting. So now that you can hear all the bits and pieces, you hear the guitar arrangement a little better. Though I'm still hearing both guitars in the same sort of sonic space. So I'm wondering if maybe they tried to pull. They probably were so similar that the machine couldn't really pull them apart per se. So you get the bass, you get the guitars, obviously the drums, and the harmonica and the vocals. I am definitely hearing the vocal arrangements even better. So what I'm wondering at that point is whether or not, and this is one of those things. I mean, I would love just a whole technical primer on every single song by Giles Martin, because I have a lot of questions. Technical questions. So, like, did they go so far as to try to really separate each Beatles voice? So, like, Paul's voice, John's voice, George's voice, because I'm hearing the richness of the vocal arrangements even more than we always again take a drink. The reason why I say that is because, so I, probably like me and many other musicians of my age and or ilk, learned to harmonize by singing with, for me, both the Monkees and the Beatles were my primary, teachers, if you will. And when I'm in the car listening to these, I will tend to sing along and make my third, especially these earlier ones, which only really kind of had two sort of parts in some levels. I would add that third part, and so I am hearing a richness to these vocals, and when I add my vocal, I can really hear the interplay even better now. So like that's one of the things that popped into my head as I'm listening to these new mixes, right? So now one of the things I also hear, obviously, is you can hear tape anomaly. It's real subtle, but I know what to hear. Like I know what to listen for. Like there was a little tiny bit of dropout, just a little tiny bit on one part there, and please me, I mean, it's so minuscule that again, no one's going to really hear it, but I heard it. It was just a slight little, but again, take a drink. You're going to, run across that with what they were using. Now, I want to find out like what were the original source material for these pieces. There is some controversy with "Love Me Do" being apparently we do know that was taken from a pristine single, first press single, and cleaned up in that regard. However, which is odd because they do have a mono tape of that. So I don't know. I'm not sure, what the reasoning for that might have been. It might have been because guess what? Maybe that tape is just not playable anymore. It's very possible. They've baked and rebaked those things and used them for, 60 freaking years for various different reasons. So God knows a lot of those tapes might not be usable anymore. At this point, all they are really doing is kind of holding up the shelf, So anyway, but that's a whole other technical thing I don't want to get into. But all I want to say with Pete, the Please Please Me mix in stereo, in this new stereo form, is I want to hear the rest of the Please Please Me album now. And the reason being is because now the next song coming up is I Saw Her Standing There, which is the opener. And you can really hear within the first three of these songs the steps that they were already taking for the quality of the recordings. So I'm going to hit play, and we're going to go on to I Saw Her Standing There. And now the stereo is huge. We are getting the two guitars, one here, bass here, drums, it's big. And you can hear the Ludwig drum set, it's so different. It's such a different sound. Like this just gives chills to me right now. So like George is here, and you got Lennon here doing rhythm guitar, so they were able to separate those. You can hear I mean, it's still rough and ready. It's not perfect. what's really interesting, which I never noticed before, is that the only cymbals you hear on this are the hi-hats. Ringo is not hitting those crashes where you would normally hear them. Oh, you hear it. He hit a crash, not on the boom, on the 1. He hit it on the 4. Like, I'm just noticing this. Okay, definitely got to pause there. I mean, okay, so first time I listened to it, so this suddenly the stereo is even wider because again, take a drink. They were obviously able to pull the guitars apart from each other. So yeah, George's lead guitar and Lennon's rhythm guitar, and you really hear the interplay, and then Paul's bass is right in the middle. And just in the cross that room area, that little B section, when they're doing the and they're between Paul's bass and George's guitar doing a very similar thing, but not quite the same. And then the rhythm guitar, oh my God, it's like the interplay between them is just gorgeous. I mean, it's rough and ready, and it's tight, but it's like it's like really pushing it. And Ringo's playing here is so subtle. It's so subtly just what's the word I'm looking for? Just like well, maybe 60 years ago it wasn't, but as time has gone on, as drummers have learned to drum, mostly from him. But then they've created these sort of rock and roll cliches of how you are supposed to hit a crash cymbal, and when you're supposed, you hit it on the 1 of the intro of the chorus, and you hit it at the end. He's not doing that at all. Most of what you're hearing cymbals here is just the hi-hat. He's doing. He hit a crash on the 4 before the chorus comes. It's like, dude, it's so radical. It's really radical. 60 years later, and Ringo Starr's drumming is radical. So. That's what I find exciting, is like hearing that stuff that you just have never heard before, or it didn't translate in like our simple mono, recording or whatever, it just kind of gets eaten up, And yeah, they're, and again, take a drink every time I say again. When they're recording this was when they would have been that one day, that 10-hour day where they recorded 10 songs basically, or 12-hour day, whatever it was, in one day. And and this was one of the songs, one of the many takes of the songs. So I want to hear the rest of the Please Please Me album this way now, because not only is the recording like just multitudes better already, but just like their playing is that's them live. That's like them. That's really them, what they sounded like live. And again, they weren't perfect, but I'm going to drink again. Every time I say that word. What was I saying? So they, that's what they sounded like live. And it really, Paul, some of the, now you can hear the bass really pulled out. Normally I'd think it's sort of like, it's sort of like watching old black and white TV shows on DVD where you see like wires of something suspended, or you see a mic boom coming through. Like you see sort of aspects of the technical way of that they did things, but that they were able to hide back in those days because it wasn't going to translate over a cathode ray tube. So that's the simile, or the metaphor, if you will. The simile is that you're kind of seeing some of that stuff a little bit, but not so. I mean, so far, not really in a bad way. Like I find like hearing Paul McCartney playing a bass, but like playing it with passion and maybe fluffing a few notes. I don't care. The performance on this is just, we're not going to hear the likes of this again. So to me, this is just a beautiful refresher of this work, and so. There, so that's me waxing eloquent on I Saw Her Standing There. which in these woke times, if we were to go down that rabbit hole, would find, oh God, I don't even want to go there. It's so stupid. Anyway, so next up from the Please Please Me album would be Twist and Shout. So let's play that. Let's hit play. And they were able to separate the guitars pretty well for this middle section. And Lennon's very sick voice. All right, we'll do a quick pause there as well. So with this one, I can tell that during the singing aspects, or during the main verses, you can hear George Harrison's guitar over here, kind of with the drums. So I wonder if they had a hard time pulling his guitar out during the verses, because you can kind of hear a little bit of push pull of what's going on with the drums. It doesn't take me out of it. It's just I'm thinking from technical brain, and I certainly don't want to put that in anybody's head that that's an issue. Again, he said again. I like to reiterate, and unfortunately, I would rather just say. I'd probably rather should just say reiterate. I reiterate. Thinking of these are 60-year-old tapes, so I'm sure they ran into plenty of challenges in making these things work. But you can hear, Lennon's, end of day voice, which was just wrecked. And I'm glad they left in like the little exhale after the last note there. They left all that in, that little, he does. I think what has been tempting for Giles, and because mainly because I've mentioned this on the Sgt. Pepper record, is that, cleaning up stuff and like stuff like that in between and all that can be tempting. However, be careful with this music, because we've grown up with hearing all of those little coughs, sighs, swears, words, squeaks, whatever it might be. If you pull those out, it's like, you're pulling an essential part of these recordings. You have to be careful. If you're thinking like someone like John Cage, who whose philosophy about music was that everything is music, all things are music. It's not just about notes, it's not just about silences, it's about everything in between. The car driving by is part of the music. The cat meowing is part of the music, or whatever it might be, is part of the environment that you're listening to that music on. The environment that they made this music was live and very human. And so, just so if Giles Martin were to hear this in further remixing, please take that into account, because that's one of the things that I fell in love with regarding this work, is that it's so human. And I think that's what most people get, even if subconsciously, is that all of this stuff was made by real people, and you can hear that. You can hear that in the tracks. You can hear it in the takes now, especially even more. I can hear The Room. I can hear Studio 2 of Abbey Road really, really nicely now. And I always could, but it's just like, it's even better now, So that's one of the things I'm really enjoying about these remixes as well. They didn't fully mix out The Room or suck the air out of each of the instruments. That again would be a something to steer away from, I think. So there you go. I hope that they go as far back to do remixes of these albums like this, I will buy them again. Yes, I will. All right, next up would be the next single from, and that's from Me to You. So let's hit play. Ringo is just so steady. And ever so subtly on that minor bridge, he doubles up on the snare drum, just a little bit different. Do a quick pause. So one of the things I'm hearing on this is that I wonder if there was a purposeful thought process to keep any cymbal work maybe to a minimum. I don't know. Hard to say. It's there, but I feel like I've heard it louder in other things. So it'll remain to be seen as I'm hearing it again, and again and again and again and again and again and again and again. When I listen to these, I hear different things. One thing that I notice is that how spare all this is: drums, bass, guitar, and vocals, and that's it. It's so spare. What's really pulling these through the 60 years of whatever it is we're still listening to these for is the melodies, and the voices just are kind of Pied Piper-ish, really. They're really enchanting, right? From Me to You, I mean, it's a somewhat minor. Let me let me rephrase this ironically. It's a minor song. However, the use of the minor going into the minor sort of key on that bridge section. I've got arms that long to hold you. It's an interesting juxtaposition that suddenly they go to, I believe it's an A minor chord on that. It's a really sneaky way of creating drama around those words. And, were they really that aware at the time that that's what they were doing? I don't know. I think 60 years down the pike, it's mixed. Things sound differently. Okay, so next up is She Loves You. So let's listen to that. I'm going to hit play. In stereo. This song has never been in stereo. This is also another one where the guitars are all in one block here. We can really hear Ringo's drums and hear his arrangement of like what he was doing. Okay, so knowing the history of this is that the original multi-tracks or whether it was 2-track or 4-track that I believe it was 2-track that they recorded this on, those multi-tracks are gone. They were long missing, long destroyed. So all they have are mono source tapes, which, there's a certain, like kind of not well recorded, to be honest, or not, at least not well captured or not well mixed at the time. Again, exciting for the times. So, there's some deficits on this one, but I am, I was expecting them, but I was also waiting to hear what this would sound like. And what's interesting is that, so the guitars are together and kind of in a bunch again, sounding very similar. So I think the learning was not able to, remove the guitars from each other. So those are in kind of a bunch. The hearing Ringo's drum arrangement, really hearing it now. On that chorus section, the accenting instrument is the tom-tom. He's going dung 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 bop bop ding, and I mean, who does that? Like he's not playing on the cymbals there. Again, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna keep saying it over and over again. Normally, the rock and roll cliche would be for the drummer to ride a cymbal on that chorus. And that's not what Ringo does. He's riding on the tom tom.